Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about a movie announcement that seems incredibly ridiculous, but apparently it's based on a true story. You know, life is the whole idea of life is stranger than fiction. And that movie is called Cocaine Bear, and it is about exactly what you fucking think it's about. Apparently it is based off of a true story where it was a man from Kentucky who was the son of a very wealthy horse breeder decided to smuggle cocaine into either Kentucky or from somewhere else in a plane, and his way to get rid of it before they reached the ground was to throw all the cocaine, which was in duffel bags, out of the plane, and then parachute out himself and collect the bags, and then bring them to wherever he was going to bring them. Unfortunately, when he jumped out of the plane, he struck the tail of the plane, which basically prevented him from opening his parachute, and he crashed in some random guy's driveway in Kentucky, killing him instantly. And they were able to, in the initial aftermath, they were able to find 9 duffel bags full of cocaine. The 10th bag, however, was apparently found by a local Kentucky bear who ate 76 pounds of it and OD'd and died. That bear that was then stuffed went through a number of shufflings before it eventually found its way to a few guys who opened up a mall in the middle of Kentucky and decided to buy the bear as a piece of Kentucky state memorabilia and display it in the mall. So that's the actual story of what happened. What it seems like with the movie is that they're making something where the bear, after it ingests the cocaine, then proceeds to go on a violent killing spree or attack people or something like that. Because the whole idea is that, oh, it's Ray Liotta versus a bear. Because that's the other thing too, is like the cast of this movie is not terrible. It's a little weird, but it's not terrible. And that, like I said, that includes Ray Liotta. That includes Alden Ehrenreich of Solo, a Star Wars story, which I guess that just shows how far his career went down the toilet. There's a lot of, and then Kerri Russell as well, and there's not too many people attached to this right now because it's still in the writing phase. Now, if this movie was being done by, like maybe Roger Corman or somebody like that, somebody who like specialized in B movies or things like that, or somebody that specialized in creature features or animal movies and something like that, then I would be kind of excited for this because when those guys throw anything like that to screen, it's always balls to the wall insane. But instead, this is being done by Elizabeth Banks, who I think a lot of people would, most people know her as an actress, but the thing is, she also recently directed that Charlie's Angels movie that flopped terribly. So I have a funny feeling they're going to definitely be including a lot of social messages in this, even though the movie is literally just supposed to be about a cocaine-fueled bear in the middle of Kentucky killing people. They're probably going to I'm assuming they're going to try and weave some kind of a racism thing in there because it's the South, it's Kentucky. It's like, oh, the bear, goes after and kills a bunch of KKK members or something, which, honestly, that probably would be funny, but I just have a funny feeling with this director that that's not going to go the route that it probably should. Because with a premise like this, even though it is somewhat based on a true story, with a premise like this, you almost have to go over the top with this movie. It reminds me a little bit of Grizzly. I mean, mainly because of the subject matter, but if you went as hardcore as Grizzly did, where if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure there's kids that die in that movie. If you went as far as Grizzly did, then you might make something that's actually palatable. But like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. The writer on this movie is not a very experienced writer at all, which again, it looks like it's a relative, even though it has a cast of people with names, it still doesn't look all that great, because the writer on it has literally only done this movie, which is currently in pre-production, and The Babysitter Killer Queen, which was the second Babysitter movie. If everybody remembers that was directed by McGee. And it's kind of it's a weird movie. I mean, I understand like the whole thing and the tropes and stuff like that, but it was also being directed by somebody with a very different style than Elizabeth Banks. So that has me a little bit concerned, even though it is a low-budget movie. That can also make the script unintentionally hilarious. This is one of those movies that I'm going to watch out for, and I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, this is a movie that could be so bad it's good. Assuming they don't hammer the social messages too much. And there's enough like what the fuck insane moments in the movie. So if you're going on that route, then I think that it could be palatable. But I don't think if they're actually trying to make this into like a serious film, which by the way, if you're calling the movie Cocaine Bear, it's not a serious fucking movie. Unless that's literally just a working title and they're going to give it a different name before it releases, which I think is possible. But regardless of that. This is just something that I thought was very, very interesting in terms of a film idea, just because it stands out very much. You know, you don't really see a whole thing about like animals on drugs killing people. Although now that they mention that, I'm actually kind of surprised they haven't done a movie about that chimp that ate that woman's face off. But maybe that's in the works too, for all I know. But there's another thing too, is that animal disaster movies, and when I say that, I mean they're animal movies where you know people are being hunted and killed by a wild animal or a group of wild animals. Those movies can be hit or miss, and they had their real heyday probably back in the 70s and 80s when you were doing a lot of those like creature features and stuff like that. You know, like I said, Roger Corman did a lot of those movies. You had a lot of those movies that were being done even by major studios back then. You know, in order to get, you know, people into the theater. That was a really high point. Jaws kind of started that in the 70s a lot too, because, you know, you had the whole thing with the shark, and then, you know, they moved on to other animals in other settings. Like I said, they had grizzly. There was a bunch of them with like different supernatural stuff. You know, you had stuff like Roger Corman's homage to Creature from the Black Lagoon, which was humanoids from the deep. There was a lot of fucking movies that came out in the 70s and 80s that had to deal with wild animals killing people. And some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are made with a budget, some of them are not. But regardless of the level, I think that kind of a trope has passed in a lot of cases. And I'd actually be curious what this is coming out on, because there isn't really any specifics right now on where this movie is going to premiere. There's not anything that says that this film is going to be going like direct to streaming, although I think that's a very big possibility. There's also the possibility that this could be getting an actual theatrical release, which I think that would be kind of interesting if they actually went that route, because most of these smaller productions nowadays, they're trying to funnel them all down into like, you know, streaming and stuff like that, or even, you know, sticking them on television and stuff. So it would be interesting to see where this movie actually does wind up going in terms of that. I think that it's going to be very evident of the quality of the film if they announce a theatrical release and they say, "Oh, wait a minute, no. I think we're gonna wind up." I think we're going to wind up going to streaming with this one. Let's just stick this one on streaming and not give it a proper release. So it's going to be interesting. But like I said, I don't really like Elizabeth Banks as a director. The writer is a relative novice, even though they do have a cast with a lot of names, mainly Ray Liotta. That's kind of who I'm excited about. But I want to know what you guys think. You know, are you excited for this movie? You're not excited for this movie? Is this the first time you're hearing of this? Do you know were you aware of the original story from 1985? You know, put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?